Personal story segment tonight. Very interesting situation here in New York City where there is a human rights law. As part of that, you must address a transgendered person the way that person wants to be addressed. If you don't, you could be fined more than $100,000. Joining us now from Washington, Katie Pavlich, and here in New York City, Kennedy, who anchors her own program on the Fox Business Network. So explain this to me. All right, so you got a transgendered person. This is workplace, right?
It's actually not. It goes beyond the workplace.
It does. Goes everywhere. So you're in McDonald's and there's a transgendered, and you're serving them, and if you say, "Hey, sir," or what?
Yes, if you address someone by a pronoun that they don't want.
So they tell you before they order the Big Mac and fries?
Okay, now let's just deal with the workplace.
All right.
If someone works at McDonald's and they are transitioning to become a woman and they want to be called Madam or Sheila, you have to address them.
All right, so they're behind the counter. We're talking about a McDonald's employee.
Exactly.
So they tell the management, I used to be Horatio,
yes,
but now I'm Sheila.
Yeah.
And you're to call me Sheila, or I'm going to sue you.
Yes, and then if you report them to the Human Rights Commission here in New York City, you could be fined $125,000. However, if you were found to have committed that offense and several others, like forcing someone to wear a dress who wants to become a man, or forcing a woman to wear a necktie, you can be fined up to $250,000.
So if there's a dress code,
malicious or willfully.
If there's a dress code, say you're in a department store, and the person comes in a dress, but last week was in a tie and jacket like this, you can't say anything.
No, you can't say anything. You cannot force them to. If you are an employer
so they can
and you have a strict
even if they're not
code.
Transgender, what if they're just a transvestite?
No,
like in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
If it's someone, it doesn't have to be someone who has undergone surgery. This can be someone who
just
does
on
not
Thursday they want to be Sheila.
Gender norms,
right.
Yes. The language is so broad, it actually.
They don't conform to gender norms.
Yeah.
What do you think, Katie, about all this?
Well, yeah, I think that's very complicated, but I think that this comes down to the fact that employers also have rights. And when you're talking about the New York City Human Rights Commission, you have to ask where the due process is for this. I mean, are we going to get into a he said, she said between an employer and an employee? And in terms of the amount of, well, in terms of the amount of money that's available here, Bill, I mean, there's a lot of room for abuse in terms of what the employers are going to go through with this.
Anybody could sue and say, I told them I wanted to be called Larry, but last week my name was Katie.
Right.
There does seem to be room for, frivolous lawsuits and all of this stuff, and then you go to the press, and then if you go to the press, it demonizes the business, and
you're further demonizing people, creating new minorities, and transgender people do need to be protected. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they do have very high rates of depression and suicide, and they face discrimination at work.
Okay,
and
let's stay on this point.
However, having said that,
wait, let's stay on this point. We all agree that transgendered people should be protected because they're in danger. Some idiots might hurt them. But shouldn't there be a requirement, and Katie, you can address this, for a transgendered person to put in writing to their employer, here's what's happening to me, here's my physician, here's what I'd like to see, so that there is a body of evidence. I think that's what has to happen.
There has to be some kind of due process here for both the employer and the person who is going to claim discrimination. And that goes for any kind of discrimination in the workplace, whether it's a civil rights issue or whether it's a transgendered rights issue. And if we're going to get into a legal battle over pronouns, there needs to be a body of evidence where employers also have an ability to defend themselves. And the employers have to have their,
if we have a dress code and you want to change it, you have to give us documentation, whatever.
Well, and the courts have actually upheld employers on that issue of the dress code.
But no employer, and this is the bottom line on this, New York City is out of control anyway. No employer wants to go through a court case and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's what this is all about in many cases.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Right.
And if Mayor de Blasio wants New York to be an inclusive place where anyone can live with all this public housing, how on earth are you going to fine people $125,000 and expect them to pay? And also, how are you going to prove intent in every case?
But it's even worse than that. New York City can't be inclusive because you can't drive in here. You can't get in. So they can't, unless you live here, you can't be included because you can't get here. Kennedy and Katie Pavlich, everyone, when we come right back.